Hi, I'm Justin Harnish and welcome to the show. On this week's episode, I'm going to start a patio. Also going to look at the progress of the spring garden, and I'll give you hints and tips on how to keep the weeds down, so bit by bit, everything we eat is off my block. This is the cabbages, broccoli and cauliflower. They're really starting to come on now.
The darkest nights in Kentucky feel like a grave, digging just like my father before me, taller place.
Just gorgeous. Peas are going really well at the moment, so I'm quite happy about that. They'll grow quite a bit taller, and as soon as you get some peas on them, you want to click them off and eat them straight away. So the more you harvest, the more peas you're going to get. But they're going really, really well. These are the last of the spring onions, and really they need to be taken out, otherwise they'll just get tougher and tougher. So I have no use for them at the moment. I've got some more spring onions seeding. So these, I think I'll pickle. Look at those potato plants. Onions doing well. Yeah, it needs a bit of a weed. And the ripe radishes have been taken out and consumed. And you can see some of the newer ones coming up. The lettuces are looking really good, and I've already started to harvest them. These are pick and come again lettuces. Oh, look at those weeds going to weed this garden. Pick and come again lettuces, so you just keep harvesting them. Make really good salads. I planted this pumpkin here a couple of weeks ago just as an experiment in the bare ground. No raised bed, no nothing. Going to put in a new raised bed there. Hello, Ollie. And hopefully the pumpkins will stretch on down there. And we'll keep an eye on those. One of the mini projects I'll be working on is a patio that comes off from the main deck. Now I've got a plan in my head about how it's going to go, but I'm going to start putting pavers down to get a real good feel about how it's going to look. Got my brazier right here, which I'm going to replace with a fire pit. And eventually going to have a pergola going over the top with plants like sweet peas and climbing roses up the pillars. So this is where I'm getting the stones from. I've decided that having this little path around the tomatoes, not really worth it. I could be using this space for other things, and at the end of the day, if I don't want to use the space, I can just put more stones down. Now I know technically that flower borders and patios with pergolas aren't necessarily something that you consider self-sufficient, but there's nothing wrong with making your garden and backyard look good too. When I was taking out the stones, which are next to the tomatoes, I did notice that one of the tomato plants, which was actually going pretty damn well, was attacked overnight by some night creature, whether it was a snail or whatever the case may be. But it got to the base of the tomato, so the whole thing was over and it was never going to survive. Fortunately, I have one more that I've potted out to go in. If it wasn't for this guy, I'd have to wait another couple of weeks before I had some tomatoes ready. So I'm just going to plant this, and I've noticed there's some weeds as well. Now the technique I'm using to grow these tomatoes is what's called square foot gardening. Per square foot I'm only having one plant in there. To maintain these guys, to make it a single stem tomato that will go all the way up this pole and give us some lovely fruit, we have to maintain by picking out from there, just like that, between the main stem and one of the branches, is just to pick out. Oh, there we go, there's another one. I'll just pick that one out. And already I can see, look, there's some flowers coming out right there. Good news. Now the cherry tomatoes are ready to be potted on, so in a couple of weeks they should be ready to go in the garden, but for right now just need to get these guys into a bigger pot so they can start to grow a little better. The root system there is actually quite good, but it needs more space. So after tidying up the table a little bit, I've found a couple of plants that need to go in the ground pretty quickly. A couple of them are these little gherkins here, which need to spread their little roots. Another pumpkin, which really does need to come out. I've got to find a place for it. The marigolds that we planted in the first episode, they're coming up really nicely, and again they'll go into a border, or a couple of them will go into a border, but some of them may actually go around the vegetable plants just to keep some of the other insects off the veggies. See, gardening is more than just planting and harvesting and watering. It's also about weeding. That's a given. But sometimes you can go into your own little world and a lot of your problems sort of disappear. Whether you do it by yourself or whether you get the family to help you, the effort is worth it. Now I know this might seem like a bunch of weeds. It's really not. This is all my garlic. Now people have many different ideas about when you should plant the garlic and when you should harvest it. But the general rule of thumb is to plant the bulbs on the shortest day of the year and harvest them on the longest day. When it's getting to where we are at the moment, which is November, you just watch for the bolting or the flowers that you'll see them, and you'll know when you see them. That will come up and they'll produce a little bulb on top. At that point, there's two options. You can either bring them up, they're ready for harvesting, or you can nip the bulb off and let it go for a couple more days or weeks. But I prefer to bring them up when that bulb starts to get a little bit bigger, and then you've got the perfect garlic ready to go. Then it's just a case of drying them out and hanging them, and this amount of garlic here will probably do me for a good 9 to 12 months. Weeds are always a problem. Always have been, always will be. There are some simple things you can do to minimize the weeds, and I've chosen a little area here that is, well, I haven't been working on, to be honest. I'm going to show you a couple of little hints and tips on how to reduce the weeds. First of all, you got to get in there and pull them out. Once that's been done, make sure it's fairly level. And then we're going to get to it with some weed killer. Now once you've got your spot pricked and ready, the next step is your weed mat. And you want to get a piece, cut out a piece that's big enough to cover the area, and away you go.
Losing sight or compromising, yeah. Oh, it's to blame, yeah, hey. Take a chance or just...
And the finished product should look like that. 10 litre bucket, blood and bone, and pourer. Going to feed some plants. I've uprooted all the spring onion and we're going to make some spring onion pickle. Very easy, very quick. I'll show you how. All you need is about 230 grams of spring onion. That's not including the roots and the leaves. You're also going to need, and I'll put them all in here, you're going to need half a cup of cider vinegar. You're going to need 1/4 of a cup of water, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of celery seeds, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of chili flakes, although you can vary that depending on taste. So I've got to process these, see how much I've got, as well as the fact that I've actually run out of chili flakes. So this is last year's chilies, dried chilies, homegrown. I'm going to zap them up and make some powder for it. So first of all, let's see how much we've got here. Okay, that's about right. So there's everything we need. We're just going to chop up the spring onions, and we've got a couple of pre-sterilized jars. Probably only going to need 1 at this point, but I got 2 out just in case. And now we place all the ingredients apart from the spring onion into the pot and bring it to the boil. And just let that simmer for 2 to 3 minutes. Maybe longer, maybe shorter, but until the spring onion has gone a little bit softer and has reduced a little bit in size. Because obviously that's not all going to fit in the juice. Well, that's about what we're after. So we'll go ahead and put it into a jar. Popping it into a jar like this and whacking it in the fridge, you'll be able to keep it for 2 to 3 weeks. If you use the proper jars, the mason jars, and you pop it into a canner and process it properly, you could probably keep it for around about a year. Now this is just for putting in the fridge. Beautiful. Pop the cap on. And that's how it's done. Beautiful. Well, that's about it for this week. Thanks for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. Please, if you're watching this on YouTube, give me a thumbs up. Like the hell out of my video. It really does help a lot. And remember, keep calm and garden on.